know that that's Dodie in that red dress. Well, I'm Dodie McCracken, and I'm President and CEO of Arcadian Partners, which is a communication, public affairs, public relations firm. And I have been thrilled to be a BENS member and a WINS member, and agree with everything that has been said around this table about the importance of, you know, a women's voice and women in both the professional world as well as the national security space. And so, as all of us, you just have to read the headlines these days, know that there is no hotter, more important issue. And certainly, Phrantceena, what you do for a living is top of mind for us today. So I think your visit is really, really timely. So Phrantceena founded and is the chairman and CEO of Total Protection Services International, based in Charlotte, North Carolina. You are the first women-owned business, which Laura alluded to, and the only certified security services company at large. And I really liked this part, and then I'm going to comment. Focused exclusively on high-threat, close proximity safety and security services for the protection of critical infrastructure assets in the corporate, nuclear, energy, and government and personal protection sectors. Now, I don't know about all of you, but I'm a huge fan of the fast-paced, you know, intelligence and security sort of focused shows that are on TV these days. And I swear when I read that, I thought, oh my God, there's a script in there. So I really hope that, you know, you tell us some fabulous story that we're going to see on Homeland, or we're going to see on Blacklist, or we're going to see on one of these fabulous shows that you know, while all of us are in the sort of national security space in one way or another, nobody does it better than Hollywood than to sort of make it all kind of come alive.
Of course.
We know you're passionate about raising public safety awareness and protecting information assets, which, as we also all know, is the most top of mind. So with that, I'll let you fill in any blanks. And I really hope you'll also start off. I shared where Dodie came from. I love the way you spell Phrantceena, so there must be a story there.
Oh my.
And if there's not, congratulations to your mom. Fabulous.
My dear mom. Well, thank you, Miss Dodie, for such a kind introduction, and I'm so honored to be here amongst you ladies, and congratulate you in your own rights for your own accomplishments in the spaces that you are. Phrantceena, the name Phrantceena is, the meaning is, it means freedom and liberation. That's the meaning of my name. At birth, my mom assigned F-R-A-N-C-I-N-A. That's the birth spelling for French. And Tate, T-A-T-E, is my maiden name. So in 2004, I'm into science and Caballerian and all these things. So a girlfriend of mine advised on how to balance your name a little better with energy. And I'm sure you've probably heard of this formula. It's a science, and we chose letters. It was a real project. We had students to choose letters to balance the name, and they came up with Phrantceena. I had a list of 50 names, different spellings of Phrantceena, and I chose that one. So
there.
That is the story. My mom wasn't very happy about it, and my dad was like, but we were able to convince them of the science of the change, and we legally changed it in 2004. So that is the story.
There.
So having said that, just being here in this environment is wonderful. National security is certainly a passion of mine. And just to give you guys a Reader's Digest version, I want to hear from you guys as much as you have heard from me. Is prior to 9/11, my background pretty much was human resources. I've taught school, worked in corporate America for presidents, colleges, educator in community colleges, Ivy League law firms, federal judges, civil rights lawyers. I mean, I just have a plethora of Jesse Helms, Senator Sam, in college. So Western North Carolina gave me a rich background with a variety of Republicans and Democrats. As a kid, I didn't know Senator Sam was Senator Sam. He was Papa Sam to me. And he authored me in his book before he died. And so I have research under him. And so there's a family thing. My great-grandmother raised the family. So that's a whole richness there with the Irvin family. And then the Helms family and the Spangler family back home. So those are my roots. And so when we, in the state, working in staffing, RTP, scientists, engineers, just temporary staffing, that's what we did for 17 years. Duke Energy called right after 9/11 and asked if I would consider protecting their nuclear power plants. And I'm like, really? I don't think so. But on the news, it was a terrible time, if you recall, during those days. And we sat down at the table with the key stakeholders at Duke Energy and the security team and went round and round for about 6 months to determine whether this was something I could actually do. And we decided we could do that and signed the contract. And boy, did I go to school after that. FBI, NRC agents, CIA agents, and anyone else that could add value to my intelligent level came along in private settings and educated me in a number of ways. And so we were able to take that philosophy and that mentoring and put a model together. I call it an algorithm, as we talked about earlier. I believe in algorithms, and so Duke allowed me to create an algorithm that worked for the business. And we had internal stakeholders that looked at the model and voted, yes, we can do it, and we've established that for 12 years. In the meantime, we have many challenges along the way, as you know, in this space of national security, and being a woman and an African-American woman. You're often discounted in a number of ways until you're able to focus on the facts and show value. And that's what we've been able to do in this space, is create value and build strong relationships. And I'm trained to think business and how do we move the initiative forward. I was called on for a job to solve a problem. And I took that very seriously. And so it doesn't matter whether it's a man or woman or girl or boy, there's a problem on the table and we have to solve it. And that was my training, and we proceeded in that area and have grown this company to over 60 million in revenue, top line, in a third of the market, and single-handedly just working on relationships, understanding threats, staying involved with the NRC and those guys that are behind the scenes that you don't see every day, to really gain an understanding of what threats are. And so we can create models to prevent the threats and to become better prepared. So along the journey, we've been able to do that. And that's been quite successful in this space. And we have also been able to change some mindsets around thinking, dealing with the thought process of our security personnel, who are protecting our systems, our programmers, our officers who are carrying guns. We have Edward Snowden's around, still in our power plants, and we know there's more of that coming. So we've been able to just, how do I say this, capture a small group of intelligent mindsets behind the scenes that have been able to guide us through. And 12 years later, we have been in the international market. Our model just naturally transcends into the international market. Jordan, the U.S. is building nuclear power there. London, we've been there to meet with the authorities there for France and London, big nuclear providers. And we just came back from Vienna, the World Institute for Nuclear Security. meeting with Roger Housley. So the network is international. And we have put together programs basically for the new practitioner. As you're building robots, we're trying to build the mentality of our human beings who are responsible for these systems and for protecting our infrastructures. So what we found over the past 12 years, and our relationships have supported us in this, is looking at the next 25 years. Who's going to protect our power plants? And we have an aging workforce. We're shipping in engineers from overseas to build. And we sit on a committee with Westinghouse, GE, Areva, Hitachi, those CEOs, looking to design the newest reactor based on the populations and the bodies of water that we have around us that are conducive. And at the same time, you're dealing with those that aren't happy about nuclear and its environmental circumstances. So we're having to deal with all of that in a community and the adverseness in order to develop the new practitioner for nuclear security. And nuclear security to me is national security, because when a nuclear plant blows up, can you imagine the catastrophic event that it has? So we're happy to be here in this space. And one of the great opportunities we've also discovered in 12 years is the minority and women community is not represented appropriately across the nation. And we've had great support from our CEOs and the NEI folks in RC. And it's not that they don't want to employ more of this population into these positions. There's an approach and there's a culture that has to be understood, and there's a foundation that has to be laid in order for one to be successful, not a revolving chair where turnover is high. So what we're trying to do is develop that platform and that foundation by education. And so we've partnered with ASU in Montgomery, Alabama, which is a historically black college and university. Partnered with them the location is great. In Birmingham, there's water there, Mississippi, to begin to educate the new nuclear security practitioner and the new critical protection for the new threats that are out here. And that's exciting to me, because now we begin to open up doors to the greater population in our communities. That includes many of our women and minorities. So we're excited about that. This hasn't been done before. So those are some of the opportunities. Challenges are just what they are. You know, just men and women are just different. Men are from Mars and women are from Venus. You see that in business as well. But you know, for me, it's I guess the greater challenge for me, looking at BENS and its organization and what you're established to accomplish, and is the government, our policies. We talked a little bit about that earlier. What I've done is looked up and around after 12 years and just looked at the blueprint across the globe. And what kind of algorithm can we fix here? We're having shootings. National security now is outside of the power plants. It's more vast into our cyber world and our grids and our schools. It's everywhere. So, but it still gets back to the same core mindset, is dealing right here and understanding our landscape and what we're protecting and what we're not protecting, and who's next door, who's sitting next to us in ways that we haven't done so before. That's why we're subject to Snowdens of the world, because we just didn't pay attention. And so these are the things that I'm working on now, is how to make it better for the greater populations and continuously improving, adding value to the system that's already developed in critical protection infrastructure, and just trying to create more opportunities. The government is huge. Policies have to be readdressed, and I say particularly in nuclear. We have nuclear labs with our government. There's a multi-trillion-dollar spend with G4S, a German-owned company, and a Sweden-owned company, which is okay. But for me, that's our space for Americans. And so for me, the next 6 months are going to look into delving into some of that government policy And how are we overlooking some of our American businesses, as we discussed earlier? How do we debundle some of those big bundles of contracts that go to Lockheed and Raytheon, some of those, so that some of our smaller businesses are able to participate and realize some of those American dreams? And we're not saying get rid of G-Force or the foreign-owned companies, but certainly let's give our home businesses some leeway. So when I look at BINs, that is one of the areas that I've already embarked upon, just calling on stakeholders in these spaces at DOE and administration, and making them aware, because oftentimes, you know, the awareness is not there. It may be there until you raise the awareness. No one's going to pay attention. But of course, no one's in the space but me now. So I have to make it known that this is a platform that we need to participate in. And so we have to look for our wonderful government to relax some of those policies. And it's not only for me, but it's for other businesses throughout. So that's my Reader's Digest version of where we are, where we've been, where we are today, and where we're planning to go for the future in this space alone, in developing our people. And robots is in the play, it's in the works. And my thing is, until we get an assembly line of robots, we have to figure out how to mesh technology and humans together for greater productivity. And so I'm excited to hear about what you're doing there. And so we're looking at value add and creativity right now in the industry. And I'm open to any questions. I really am.
I'd be interested in what your perspective is on the greatest threat facing the U.S. security related to nuclear. So is it the other plants that are being built? Is it the education piece and not having the engineers here? Is it that there's nothing in the pipeline? Like, if there's one, not that there's ever one answer, but what do you think is the most, that top of thing that really needs solved first?
It's people.
So the education piece,
Yes.
having enough people in your pipeline, having people.
Well, not only having enough people, but the right people.
Right.
And even in the C-suite. We're in Vienna and meeting with Roger, and we're members of the WIN group now, the World Nuclear. And his comment to your point, Laura, was, you know, the C-suite is the greatest thing. There's a communication gap between the CEOs of these utilities, your C-suite, and the end users, your security personnel on the sites. And in the middle, there's a huge vacuum. So what they're beginning to do is, what they've addressed is their most critical is communication gaps between the C-suite and the end users. The C-suite, they don't oftentimes understand where a threat really is. Where's the threat coming from? What is the threat? And they're oftentimes in reactive mode. So they're addressing the C-suite as a critical problem in the industry, is they just don't understand the impact. And the only thing is, keep me out of the newspaper.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't get me in the newspaper, from the C-suite. So what he's proposing is bridging that gap by educating that C-suite of the vulnerabilities down here and somehow trying to bridge that communication gap. And we found that as true, because in working in the space, I've often worked with C-suites. That is my relationship, and the end user, and there is a vacuum there, because when it comes to a threat or budgets, these people have the power, the nuclear folks. And oftentimes the C-suite, they have no clue. They just say, oh, they say we can't do it because, you know, safety reasons. So I think the communication gap in its people, and it all evolves around re-educating and redefining what security means and what the threats are, from the C-suite down to the end user, because it's changed tremendously. And that's why we've just taken this route, is developing the mindset. And once you do that, everything else falls into place. Great question, though. Thank you.
Congratulations to you, and thanks for the comments there. My question kind of goes to the education piece. When you look across our academic institutions, is there a strategy amongst them? out there in this area that you're working in, or are you seeing it kind of like ALU, like you mentioned, that they're starting to grow one down there, but is there a common goal amongst the academic institutions
No.
in this area?
No. That's the problem. I mean, I'm gonna say it's a problem, but it's hodgepodge. You know, we'll put a program here and a program here. And it's pretty much more of the tradition. You get a grant here, give a grant to this school, they're gonna develop nuclear research, they're gonna do this. But there is not a uniform code per se. And there may be in regulations, there has to be a uniform code for regulations, but when you get outside of regulations, that's where you have your threats, and it's not there. And so when we met with the Nuclear Institute in Vienna, and those guys, NEI, the goal is to develop that, create it, where it is a uniform, even if it's basic 101, of what security means at a critical protection infrastructure. And that's where we're attempting to make that happen. We've done that inside for 12 years, so now we've just gotten approval to bring it out, where it's been cleaned up pretty much and scrubbed for the regular civilian to learn and the basic concept of what they're protecting. But education is critical in this space because of the aging workforce.
Yeah, thank you.
Phrantceena?
Yes. You're looking at universities now and educating that generation, and you have an aging workforce. What differences do you see generationally? Is there something that the leaving workforce could do or understood better than the younger generation? Or are there lessons that you're pulling together for the younger generation just because of the world is so different interconnectedly? What do you see as the differences?
The mindset. All of it is here. It's mental. I mean, because pretty much our younger generations, they can follow instructions, technical, they're programmers, they're very smart. They can use their hands and do. But the mindset is the different things. You have an aging workforce. They have the knowledge. They have the old knowledge of the bigger reactors and the old threats. These guys are saying, we have to do 20 sit-ups in 60 seconds now. We can't have our beer bellies. We have to go be evaluated by psychologists now, and we have to have a background check every 6 months that goes back 25 years. I mean, these things they're just done with. But based on the new threat, there's a gap between exiting and just not complying with the new regulations and the new threats. And then the younger generation coming in and said, I'm gonna give you 5 to 10 years. When this generation has been there 30 years. Yeah. So you have to manage the mindset of this worker coming in that said, I'm gonna be here 5 years and get all I can and then I'm going here. That's their mindset. So we're having to redefine what that means as a career path, basically to the locals, because everyone is not going to leave home, and everyone's not going to go to college away from home. And most of these power plants or oil and gas are built in rural areas. So we're bringing that to them and said, we have to educate this 80%. We have to grow our own right now. And when you address that mentality of 5 to 10 years maybe, then we have to, it's a career. And that's where we've been successful in educating our incumbents into the space. They go in and they move around and they go up in careers, and we constantly are backfilling. So, and with cyber threats, the skill sets are just not there with the older groups. They just, and some of them refuse to go and learn about it. So you're dealing with a mindset and skill sets that have to deal with a new threat, and that is a gap right now. And we don't have it really readily available. Our government is, it's overwhelmed, and their talent is used quite a bit. So we have to grow our own. And what we're doing is pulling that intellectual, those older retirees, together, and so they can train and transfer knowledge to the younger group that's coming in as well. So we're trying to repair our retirees. They're not ready to go home, and so we need you to train and help these young folks. And that's working in some areas. So that's what we found is a gap, is the mindset that we will be able to address in the educational piece.
Are you primarily working in the nuclear energy space, or are you out? I mean, it sounds like it's a lot of nuclear. So is that
Yeah.
kind of your niche market right now, or are you into other industries and entities?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Nuclear, what they say, nuclear brought us to the dance.
Correct.
They probably keep us at the dance,
Yes.
but we have a broader a market for sure that's CIP, critical infrastructure. And right now we have a lignite coal mine that we're protecting in Mississippi. And that's dirt coal, clean, but it's cheap, and it will work for that area. So that's lignite coal. It's a critical infrastructure. And others that we've protected is new builds, you know, COLAs, greenfield operations, or just a combined license. And then our National Guard, the governors and all those
And are
colonels.
you protecting them, you protecting these facilities physically as well as running the operations of them, the sort of from a cyber perspective, from a, I guess more of a software perspective?
We do both.
You do both.
Yeah.
So it's physical in that you're putting guards at the facilities, and it's also you're inside helping to run.
Assessors,
Got it.
evaluators, give me a consultant to go look at this.
Got it.
And I need someone to look at the shipyard. And so those things just come automatically as projects.
Got it.
And we manage a full force, and then we manage a hybrid force where we work as an augment to an existing force, where we're able to focus our talent, if it's special ops, if it's 007, if it's, I'm using those names, that will augment a vacuum in an existing or skill set that's not there, that's needed. We will bring that talent in for a project.
So when you bring talent in for a project, does your engagement typically or exclusively involve bringing your people in to actually do the protection, or do you have a training component where you leave them with people that will stay permanently at your clients, or train your clients' people?
Both.
Both?
Both. Yeah, since we started with just staffing 12 years ago, but as we've performed and we create value, we get those little projects that just slide in. The main contract says this, but now we need a team of 6 to do this. One of the other things we've been able to create, you probably are familiar with force-on-force exercises that the plants go through. They're very aggressive. And so we've been able to create a controller team. If you know, force-on-force is like paintball. And the NRC is very big on how can you grade your own team and who's not cheating and who's giving us bad scores. So we've been able to recreate that model and present it in a way that we were able to extrapolate controllers, and 18 of them, and just pull them to the side and train them just outside of the regular thing. And so we've developed a new algorithm that is able to separate the controllers from the actual force and have a level playing field for graded exercises that the NRC can really count on as vulnerabilities that aren't kind of brushed off. So that's been another fascinating thing we've been able to introduce to the industry that works. And a lot of these things don't get out. They're just private projects that we do. And
Do you do them in the cyber realm? Do you do cyber flag exercises for them to see if they can be penetrated?
I personally don't, but the talent that we find will, like for the National Guard.
Sure.
They're antiquated. Most of our government systems are, but our North Carolina, our National Guard systems are really, so we'll just bring a talent in that can do that and pull it out.
You know, I'm not sure why you're asking this, but I kind of found this interesting. I once had the CEO of a larger utility tell me that they didn't have to worry about cyber because they were on SCADA systems and it was off.
SCADAs.
And it was off, you know, an outside, really not part of the technical infrastructure. And so I'm curious about how much you hear that. You might actually agree with that, but I have a feeling maybe you wouldn't. And then,
I think
so
we're
how
really
much
shocked
money
over
was
here.
that?
You said that.
Her reaction will give you
I'll tell you later.
Yeah.
SCADA is a SCADA does. I mean, what do you, yeah.
What, no, I'm sorry.
That's all
I mean, do you agree with that, or is there?
Do I
maybe
agree
something
with
that-
what?
That cyber isn't something that a nuclear power plant really has to worry about as much. Cyber attacks aren't gonna happen to them necessarily.
To a nuclear plant?
Yeah.
I don't agree with, I don't
think it
think
will?
that, I don't think that they're removed from that process, not at all.
And so
Even
are
with
you
the
finding-
SCADA systems and all that, I don't,
Yeah.
no.
And do you find that gap too? Do you find that most of your CEOs are not?
Absolutely.
They don't think it exists?
No, they don't. The CEOs are very interesting, but they're far removed from this, from these details. They don't really get it until there's an issue.
But the cyber
Yeah.
threat can be on the inside, right? It just
Yeah.
doesn't mean it's just a third party trying to get in.
Yeah.
but-
Right.
But your own people can be your biggest cyber vulnerability.
Yes.
But I don't think that the C-suite is even thinking that that's a possibility either. They think they've got it locked down, don't they?
Typically.
I don't know. Fran, you can answer this. I don't know.
Yeah, they do.
That would appear to be what one of the biggest threats would be if they don't even recognize that the threat could even potentially exist.
Absolutely.
How do you
Absolutely.
then convince them to realize there's a potential problem when they are so blinded by even the potential that it could be coming from inside?
You have to get them out of the office.
Right.
You have to take them down there and say,
From a
look.
reality check.
Yes,
Does
yes.
it take showing them that it?
It
you
works.
could do it?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
I
Now,
have to pick
and,
the lock.
Say, watch me get in,
Correct.
and then tell me how you're immune
Correct.
from all that.
And then it's like, oh my
Yes.
My husband wouldn't
So,
lock the
yeah.
deadbolt at home,
Yeah.
and I kept chewing him a new one, and he would only. And so I said, okay, baby, I want you to watch this. And I took out my little Food Line MVP card, and in 2 seconds, I said, time this. I said, okay, I'm in the house. So I popped
Look
the
at that.
garage door lock in 3 seconds, and I walked through the garage, la, 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 and then I popped the other lock. I said, 30 seconds, no noise. Someone's in the house. It literally took,
Yes.
look at this, before he would listen. And so I can only imagine CEOs, what is it going to take for them
Jeez.
to realize there's a real threat potential?
In some respects, though, you just have to open a newspaper or turn on a television. It's amazing that they don't think that there's a threat.
Well, they,
Yes.
they,
It's just
they,
amazing, and this is not my space. I mean, I can drive you any contract you need, but and even I can hear that and go, that's ridiculous.
Exactly, Sandra. How would they
Yeah.
not?
Well, there
Yeah.
hasn't
well,
been
they're
incidents,
not
right?
there.
I mean, there hasn't been an incident. and-
Yet.
There you
Well,
go.
that's right,
That you
but
know
a
of.
lot of cyber,
That you know
well,
of,
there
because
was also
Exactly.
damage.
Well,
No,
that made
was
the
all
press,
damage.
let's put it
Right,
that way,
exactly.
even
So
say,
rehiding.
yeah.
And they are hiding.
Sure.
Yeah.
And it's, yeah.
One of the questions I had is, I know the nuclear industry is facing a lot of price pressures, and you're getting decommissioned and sort of all, and it's impacting how their posture is changing from a zero risk posture in terms of how they build to actually figuring out what acceptable
Yes.
risk is. How does that flow to how they think through security?
How does,
The price pressure and the budget pressures and is that impacting how they're thinking about security at all? I know it's impacting how they're thinking about building plans, but does that impact the security posture?
well, I think it does. One of my CEO mentors says, with security, we just want to get rid of security. They don't add value to my balance sheet over here. They're costing me money. And so when you look at the balance sheet, so you have to talk about the balance sheet and what that means to them in terms of balance sheet. So when he says that, I say, okay, you have to translate it into a number. So that's what we do, is every physical thing is a number, because it happens on his balance sheet. Where you want to outsource, it doesn't mean anything, but it's the greatest liability he has. And so when we worked through the balance sheet, we saw that there was value and that he didn't even realize. And, they think security and guns is nothing, but there's tremendous value there. And educating them on how to reinvest in that value. And that would kind of eliminate a lot of crimes at that computer. Somebody can just ting. And so that education has been very good for us in educating them on how to value the people. And that will, but these guys have to be educated because they look at shareholders, they're looking at new merchants, they're looking at this big picture and money, shareholders, pleasing the shareholders, the stock. And what is my balance sheet? Well, this department is losing me money, so get rid of it. Well, no, you can't do that. And
The
so,
preventative end of it though must sell them. It's like, it may not look like it's on your balance sheet now, but you know what this is gonna cost? you
yeah,
if this
it
happens?
costs.
Your balance sheet's gonna be in a bankruptcy court,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
But
yeah.
getting
They
people
wouldn't,
to
yeah.
spend money on preventative medicine is always hard.
it's tough.
Yeah.
Security and education has been the first thing to get cut from the C-suites when times get hard. And those are the two things you never want to cut. So, I mean, they were, why, Phrantceena? Why do I have to keep this? It doesn't look at my sheet. It's not. So I literally had to sit down and go through the balance sheet and show them the value of what it is and where it is costing. And those hidden costs that they typically don't get from, you know, their leaders. But that's where you have to meet the CEO, is on their level. Take whatever objective you have or whatever goal and turn it into a number.
Well, it makes sense.
That's
If
it. You just
can't-
turn it into a number, you
can't
got it.
Use
All day.
language that squares with their scorecard, they're